Hey, that was a bit much. I can't do that, but good luck with it. I don't really know enough about that situation to say anything. Before anyone manipulates you, they test you. Not openly, not obviously. They never walk up and announce that they are running a psychological experiment on you to see exactly how much they can take before you push back. They do it quietly, through small moments that feel like nothing. A comment that was slightly too sharp, a request that was slightly too much, a boundary pushed just enough to see what you do. And most people fail these tests without ever realizing a test was happening. By the time the real manipulation starts, the groundwork is already laid. They already know your limits. They already know your weak points. They already know exactly how far they can go. This video shows you the 3 tests being run on you right now, how to recognize each one in real time, and the single response that tells every manipulator, this one is not worth the effort. Why manipulators always test first. Here is the psychology behind why testing always comes before attacking. Manipulation is a risk calculation. Every person who wants to control, use, or exploit someone else is running a cost-benefit analysis before they commit. If the target pushes back, the manipulator loses social capital, looks bad, and potentially faces consequences. That risk is too high to take blindly. So they test first. Small, deniable, low-risk probes that tell them everything they need to know about whether you are a safe target. Dr. George Simon, one of the most important researchers on covert manipulation, identified this pattern across decades of clinical work with both manipulators and their victims. He called it incremental boundary testing. The manipulator never crosses a line until they have confirmed, through multiple small tests, that crossing that line will not cost them anything. This is why manipulation feels like it comes out of nowhere. It does not come out of nowhere. You just were not watching for the tests. The third test I am going to show you is the one most people miss completely, because it does not feel like a test at all. It feels like kindness. Test 1, the reaction test. The first test is the simplest. They say or do something slightly out of line, and they watch what you do. A comment that is slightly too personal. A joke that goes slightly too far. A request that is slightly unreasonable. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you could easily call out without looking oversensitive. They are not doing this carelessly. They are watching your reaction with complete attention. Do you laugh it off? Do you go quiet? Do you change the subject? Do you push back? Every reaction you give is data. If you laugh it off, they learn you will absorb discomfort to keep the peace. If you go quiet, they learn silence is your response to boundary violations. If you change the subject, they learn avoidance is your default. Any of these responses tells them the same thing. This person will not confront me directly. And that is the green light. The pass response is simple. You do not get angry. You do not make it dramatic. You look at them directly, and you say, 4 words. Calm, direct, no aggression, no long explanation. Just a clear signal that you noticed, you named it, and you are not absorbing it quietly. That response fails the test for them. It tells them you have a working boundary detection system, and you are not afraid to use it. Most manipulators move on immediately. The cost just went up. Test 2, the favor test. The second test is about resources, your time, your energy, your effort. They ask you for something slightly unreasonable. Not dramatically unreasonable, just slightly. A favor that costs you more than it should. A request that assumes more access to you than you have given. Help with something that is really their responsibility. They are testing one thing. Do you say yes when you should say no? If you say yes, they have confirmed that your need to be helpful, liked, or seen as a good person overrides your own boundaries. That is extremely valuable information for someone who wants to extract from you long-term. Ibn Qayyim wrote about the concept of protecting your energy as an act of worship, the idea that your time, attention, and effort are trusts given to you that you are responsible for spending wisely. Giving them away freely to someone who has not earned them is not generosity. It is a failure of stewardship. The pass response is not aggressive. You do not lecture them about boundaries. You simply say, warm ending, clear no, no justification, no apology, no alternative offered unless you genuinely want to offer one. A person running a favor test needs either a yes or a long explanation of why not. A clean no with no explanation gives them nothing to work with. Test 3. The loyalty test. This is the test most people never see, because it comes disguised as something else entirely. They share something with you, a secret about someone else, a piece of gossip, private information about a third person, and they watch what you do with it. If you engage, if you add your own gossip, express judgment, or show that you enjoy the information, they have just learned something critical about you. They have learned that you participate in the sharing of private information, which means you will share theirs eventually, which means they now have leverage, because they can always claim you shared their secret if they need a weapon against you later. But more importantly, they have identified you as someone who does not protect information, and someone who does not protect information cannot be trusted with real power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That principle applied to this test is simple. You do not engage with information that was not yours to receive. The pass response is to receive the information with zero engagement and redirect immediately. Then you change the subject. You have not been rude. You have not accused them of gossiping. You have simply demonstrated that information does not flow freely through you. That makes you useless as a gossip partner and extremely trustworthy as a potential ally. The manipulator who ran this test on you just learned that you are not an easy information source. Another green light just went red. Identity line. If you are still watching, you have probably already recognized at least one of these tests in your own life. Someone ran it on you, and now you know what was actually happening in that moment. The one response that ends all three tests. Beyond the specific responses for each test, there is one underlying principle that fails every test simultaneously. Respond. Do not react. Reacting is automatic. It is driven by emotion, discomfort, or the need to make the tension stop. Every reactive response, whether it is absorbing, avoiding, or over-explaining, gives the tester exactly what they need. Responding is chosen. It arrives after a pause. It gives the minimum required and nothing more. It does not explain or justify. It does not seek approval for the boundary it just set. The person who responds instead of reacts is the person who passes every test, not because they are cold or strategic in a calculating way, but because they are genuinely grounded. They do not need the tester's approval. They do not need the discomfort to stop immediately. They can sit inside the tension long enough to choose their response deliberately. That groundedness is what makes a manipulator recalculate. They are looking for someone whose behavior can be predicted and shaped through pressure. Someone who responds instead of reacts cannot be shaped that way. The pressure does not produce the expected output. And a target that does not produce the expected output is a target not worth pursuing. Homework. 1 practice. Starting today. For the next 5 days, once per day, you identify one moment where you reacted automatically instead of responding deliberately. Just one moment. Write one sentence describing it. At the end of 5 days, you will have 5 data points about the specific situations that trigger your automatic reactions. Those are your test vulnerabilities. The places manipulators will probe because your responses there are predictable. Knowing them is the beginning of closing them. 1 moment. 1 sentence. 5 days. That is the practice. Close. They tested you before they ever moved against you. They always do. Now you know the 3 tests. The reaction test, the favor test, the loyalty test, and the one underlying response that fails all 3 simultaneously. The next time someone runs a quiet probe, you will feel it. You will name it internally, and you will respond instead of react. They will move on, because the most dangerous thing you can be to a manipulator is unprofitable. Subscribe, because next week we give you the next one.